It's time to discuss this this background in the panel discussion. And as I said, apologies for Gabriele. He already gave a statement yesterday underlying the importance of skills and but also of social innovation for the twin transition. And yes, and now I think it's time to hand over to Miikka, who is a senior manager public affairs for EUROFER and coordinating the social affairs committee at EUROFER and chairing together with Elspeth, if I'm not wrong, the sectoral social dialogue committee on steel. Miikka, the floor is yours. I stop my presentation then right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Tony, and welcome everyone for the first session of the afternoon today. You see in front of you, of course, the topic of the day, so implementation and rollout of the European blueprint, what we are working on now and shaping the future steel transformation together. And as mentioned, indeed, we have a very knowledgeable panel today, a lot of the EU level people, as now Tony was saying, and I will just briefly introduce, before we kick off, I'll just briefly introduce our panelists today. And indeed, we have Mr. Martin Kunkel, who is the Managing Director of the Association of Cold Rolling Mills, but also of CIELFFA. And this is the European Association of Cold Rolled Strip Producers and representing again EU-wide. So welcome, Mr. Kunkel. Then we have Axel Orduna, who is the Executive Director of A.SPIRE, and being an association on the European level again, representing 10 different industrial sectors. And it's interesting to hear from her today, her take on what we are doing as steel, because I know that she's also very active in SPIRE size blueprint, which is also something that Tony is coordinating. And I'm sure we'll get a bit of reflection from that point as well. And she is also very knowledgeable in all these areas. Then we have also Axel Eggert, who is the Director General of EUROFER. Welcome, Axel. Axel is very knowledgeable when it comes to EU affairs with more than 20 years of experience. And he has also worked in the European Parliament 8 years before. And so he has a very good idea from both sides of the table what it takes to manage these issues on Brussels level. Then we have also Klaus Peters. We, of course, heard from him yesterday quite many times in various panels. So welcome again. And as you know, he's, of course, the Secretary General of ESTEP, among other numerous positions, like being a member of the Steel Advisory Group of the Research Fund for Coal and Steel. So we will have a very detailed perspective today from there as well. And then we also have Miss Elspeth Hathaway, and then just like Tony said, she is my social counterpart then from industriALL, so the trade union. EUROFER and industriALL are doing a lot of active work together on social issues, and we have this sectoral social dialogue committee on steel where we exchange 3-4 times a year on all the topical important issues, and we have a very good cooperation along the years with her and her organization. Now, I think before we start, we have a couple of good questions prepared for you. But before we start, it could be interesting to hear just a bit of background of all of your organizations. And I'm seeing that Elspeth won't be able to open her camera, so maybe we have Scott or someone who can help with this. But indeed, it would be nice to hear from your organization so we get an idea of what is the background, you know, that you are mirroring the topic that we are talking about today. I know I do have an Elspeth welcome on board as well. I have a couple of presentations here, but you are free to also show your own slides if you so wish. Any one of you can share the screen. So maybe we start with Martin. Welcome indeed.
Okay, Miikka, thanks a lot for your kind introduction. I had prepared some slides, but I can present CIELFFA without any slides because CIELFFA is the European Association of the steel cold rolling industry in Europe. Our members are the national steel associations, especially in Germany, in Italy, and in Spain, and also single cold rolling strip producers from Spain, Italy, Czech Republic, Italy, and mainly from Germany. And our task is to represent and to promote the interests of the cold rolling industry in Europe and sometimes also worldwide. And the speciality for my association is that our members are mostly small and medium-sized enterprises and partly family-owned. That's different to the steel producing companies who are mainly represented in the ESSA project. So my task is to pronounce and to stuck into the SME side or view of this project. Some characteristics from the cold rolling industry, if you agree, we have around about 3/4 of our member companies are small and medium-sized companies. We have 2 and 3 bigger ones, but the mostly are really SMEs. And it's an industry supplying various industries, such as the automotive sector. Approximately around about 60% of the cold strip production is processed by the automotive industry. The electrical and machinery industry is also a consumer of cold strip, and approximately 1/4 of cold rolled strip produced goes into the metal manufacturing industry. So we are an industry which is in a so-called sandwich position. On the one hand, there are our customers from the powerful companies of the automotive industry or the automotive supplying industry. And on the other hand, material suppliers, large steel companies represented here by EUROFER. So this sandwich position is not quite comfortable for us, but we have to face this challenge. This may be some sentences for representing what my association is facing today. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. And then Angel.
Okay. Hello. Can everybody see me?
We can see and hear you very well. Thank you.
Very well. So then I will share my screen and I will show a short presentation. Let me see that I'm successful to share the screen. This one.
So far, it looks very nice.
You can see it? Perfect.
Very well, thank you.
That sounds great. Good. So thank you, everybody, and welcome. Hello, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to this wonderful conference on the ESSA project. I represent very briefly, to put you into context, A.SPIRE, the association ASPIRE that manages from the private side the partnership processes for Planet that will be kicked off in June. And we represent 10 sectors. One of them is the steel sector. So we represent mainly the energy intensive industry sectors, plus 2 other transversal sectors like engineering and water. Based in more than 20 countries. This is for the headquarters of our members, and we gather around 170 members. Our partners in this partnership is the European Commission, led by DG R&I, but also with the collaboration of DG GROW. You can see here that we gather different types of members, including industry, but also research centers, NGOs, and others. Let me move very quickly to our roadmap because I don't want to steal too much time. So clearly here we are a unique cross-sectoral community because we always gather the industrial association at EU level plus the companies, and this is our power, that all these 10 sectors gather their common concerns for research and innovation. For what? To achieve this goal. So they want to achieve impact. And these are the 3 common ambitions of processes for planet sectors, which are the climate neutrality, so to reach the net zero emissions goal, but also the circularity, the net zero landfilling, and near zero water discharge goals, and of course within competitive parameters. So if the industries are not competitive, there are no jobs and no skills needed anyway. Yeah, so that is very important. So how do we do it? We have developed a research and innovation agenda, the SRIA, that includes 36 innovation programs, which, and you can see here the innovation areas that determine all these 36 innovation programs based, for example, on renewable energy, heat reuse, CO2 utilization, etc. It includes also an important part within the non-technological aspects related to skills, jobs, the competitive gap analysis, framework conditions, and standards. We are a partnership within Horizon Europe, but we go a bit beyond. So all these innovation areas and programs need to lead us to have the right projects and develop the right innovations for all these 10 sectors within Horizon Europe. But this leads up to TRL 7 and 8. So we have 2 key initiatives that go beyond that reach till TRL 9. Our roadmap develops from TRL 1 to 9. So one of them is the first-of-a-kind plans, and the other one is the hubs for circularity. The first-of-a-kind plans are these pioneering plans that can change the way the process industry produce their materials, whether it's steel, whether it's another material, right? So they are large-scale plans in which the different innovations developed through the projects or developed already by the companies by other means can be integrated. So all our sectors acknowledge that there is no single technology that can achieve the CO2 emissions reduction alone. They need to be integrated in these first-of-a-kind plans or in first-of-a-kind units within existing plants that can change the way these existing plants operate. This is very important in terms of skills, because this is changing the skills needed for the workforce to be really help the industry to achieve these ambitions and do this transition. On the other hand, the second big initiative that we have besides the innovation areas and programs is the hubs for circularity. The hubs for circularity is based on the concept that impact happens somewhere. Impact doesn't happen just because a project finishes. It only happens once the results are implemented in the industrial plants. And for that, it can be, we need to see which is a territorial perspective, which are the territorial conditions, the strengths and the weaknesses, so that they can identify which is their the best way they can proceed. For that, they need to gather the regional community, develop these sustainable business models that consider which are the needs and the strengths. Of course, in our case, our focus is on areas where the process industry has a strong presence. It can be a region, it can be an industrial site, it can be industrial parks that are neighboring across regions and countries. This doesn't matter. The important thing is that there is enough critical mass to really generate changes together.
If you don't mind, I might stop you here, because I see that what you are going through is already really good for the panel. So let's not empty the slot machine yet.
Okay.
We are indeed curious to hear how you reflect these with some of the questions.
Okay. Yeah, this intended to be a general presentation, because really this is influencing a lot on the discussion on the panel. Exactly. I had 2 more slides on the SPIRE size projects, but if we don't have time, we can share them afterwards with the participants anyway.
Indeed, and I'm sure that
Okay.
you can make the
No
link.
problem.
You can make the link very well to some of the questions we have reserved for you here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And then we have Axel Eggert. If you want to just tell, lay an overview of the steel industry, of what we are looking at the moment. And Angels, if you stop sharing, then
yeah, I'm trying to see how to stop sharing. Yeah,
that was very well done.
That was what I was trying. Did I? Yeah,
very
it was
well.
already stopped. Huh?
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you hear me well, and I hope you can also see my little presentation on the screen. So, EUROFER, I think, is quite well known, but maybe not our main activities. And the main activities of EUROFER is, of course, information of our members on matters that are decided at European level. We do, of course, a lot of advocacy to make sure that our steel industry has a competitive environment that can even be improved by EU measures. We have, of course, a very strong point always on trade measures, because, as you know, global overcapacity is squeezing our industry in Europe, and we need to make sure that the European Union is reactive on all kind of distortions, which make it extremely difficult for our industry to go into the needed green and digital transition. EUROFER has round about 40 member companies, and all European national steel associations are also members of EUROFER. By that, we cover almost 100% of European steel production. On this slide, you see the map of the European Union 28. So UK is still on that map. So we will in the next weeks change that. But you see here a part of our installations across Europe. And this map shows the blast furnaces and the electric arc furnaces throughout Europe. Of course, there are more processing sites, 500 roundabout for the EU steel industry. You see also here some key steel figures, which unfortunately go in the wrong direction currently, not only due to COVID, but also in 2019 already. Steel consumption reduced significantly, and with that also EU steel production. And you see on this also one huge mismatch, that is that we have the objective for the circular economy in Europe, but at the same time we are massively exporting steel scrap to other destinations, 22 million tons in 2019, while we only imported 3 million tons. And that's, of course, a huge lack then to fulfill the objectives which we have for both the circular economy, but also for the climate. On the employment, I think that's relevant to have a view on this here in this panel. We are still with 320,000 direct jobs in Europe, but the indirect impact is even much bigger. More than 2.6 million jobs are either directly or indirectly created by the European steel industry, and that is one of the highest multiplicator factors in the economy. For each job in the steel industry, 7 jobs in other sectors are being created, and it's a very important aspect for the European Union to consider. I believe that with the industrial strategy, and in particular the staff working document on steel, the Commission has seen how important our sector is and how important it is as a sector on which other sectors can also be measured. We are often the first sector which is concerned when it comes to economic downturns, but you can also see with the steel industry when it goes upwards. in the economy. But in particular, the impact the sector has for the wider economy that made it, I think, the Commission rethink and look deeper into our industry, more deeper than probably in other sectors. And if you see here, this is from the Oxford Economics, a study on the steel industry. And if you only take the 4 major steel customer sectors, you see that across these 4 industries combined, there's a total direct gross value added for Europe of 1.35 trillion euros. And the taxpayers or the tax revenues alone of this are 500 billion euros. These are our value chains, and that just shows to everyone how important this industry is. And if you then even add the indirect and induced impacts of those sectors, you come to 62 million jobs. And that's of course also important when we are talking about skills. We have to consider that it's not only the steel industry, it's our full value chain. Go to the next slide. On the other hand, you are aware of the huge negative impact over the last decades on our industry, and we only see here on this map the last 10 years from 2009 to 2019, where we had to close around about 26 million tons of permanent capacity in the EU. The EU is the only major steel producing region that has decreased capacity. And that is the big problem for us, the global overcapacity that's pushing on our borders with very low priced imports supported by governmental support schemes. And that puts us at an enormous disadvantage at a time where we need and where we want to decarbonize. At the same time, in the last 10 years, more than 25% of the total EU steel workforce was lost. We wish, of course, to stop that, but we do not yet have the figures for 2020. So that may have an additional negative impact.
I think maybe, Axel, again, if you don't mind, I will stop you here. It gives a good background. It gives a really good background because we understand the immense importance of steel industry as an employer, and therefore skills play really a concrete role. Now, if we go to Klaus, we heard from you yesterday, and I think we are rather familiar with ESTEP, but maybe in a few words, if there is something that hasn't been said about it yesterday yet.
Thank you, Miikka, for the kind words. And indeed, I planned not to repeat the presentation of yesterday, just say ESTEP is the steel technology platform. So it's all about technology and innovation. And so to say, ESTEP has 2 pillars of activities. The one is the technology platform orientated ones, where we have the focus groups. And for today, it's important to recognize that we have one focus group dedicated to social innovation, to all these people aspects. And I'm happy to share some insight later on why it's so important and what is the added value to also see us in a position as of today. And it's all about collaborative activities among our members, which are the full steel value chain. So in the corner of in the center, of course, the producers, but also universities, RTOs, plant builders, and also civil society representatives. And the second part is now the facilitation of the Clean Steel Partnership, which was in detail explained in a couple of presentations yesterday. And Axel would have explained the Green Deal contribution from us. So therefore, I will also stop now at this.
Very good. Thank you so much. And then Elspeth, on the industriALL Europe Trade Union, a bit of your role, and then let us dive into the skills questions.
Hi, Miikka. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you. Hopefully you can hear me well. I've got my fancy pop star style headset, taking it very seriously today.
Very good.
Thank you. No, it's great to be here. I think most of you will know who we are. If you don't, I'm Elspeth. Hello. I'm here on behalf of industriALL Europe. So we're the European Trade Union. So a big European trade union confederation. So our members, we have 180 members, and these are the national trade unions. And I'm really happy today to see that Enrico from Italy is with us, Roman and Marcel from the Czech Republic. So we represent at the European level all of our national members. Really happy to be here today, Miikka, because obviously we're talking about skills, so we're talking about workers. So obviously we'd say if we're talking about skills, we're talking about workers, you've got to have the trade unions, you've got to have the worker representatives there. And the main things that I'll be talking about today, and I'll probably repeat myself a lot, Miikka, is the importance of investing in the workforce, reskilling, upskilling workers, about safeguarding jobs and even creating new jobs. So let's be ambitious. We'll talk a lot about social dialogue as well. I think it's really good you've got us and yourselves, EUROFER, here. And I know, Tony, that we have yourself and you'll be coming to our social dialogue meeting on the 7th of June. So it's not just warm words. We do continually talk about skills, and we're really, really looking forward to the discussion today. Thanks, Miikka.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. So now, of course, the word skills and digital green economic transition has come up a bit. So I would like to hear maybe from Martin first about how would you rate the relevance of skills within this digital and green economic transition?
Miikka, let me make some remarks to the challenges our industry is facing today and tomorrow. Because working conditions in our companies are demanding on the one hand, particularly in the production areas. They are both physically and cognitively demanding tasks. Shift work, as in the steel industry is known, operation of complex machines. And moreover, the digitalization process changes work forms and workloads, but also competitive strategies in the cold rolling industry. And on the other hand, the industry is characterized by a high proportion of older employees. That's one of our main challenges, main problems. Qualification and knowledge management are of particular importance in this area. Let me have some words on the demographic challenges of our industry. If we have a look at the typical German cold rolling company with about 50 employees. So the workforce, we have an extremely high proportion of older employees. Nearly 60% of our employees are older than 50 years. And the average age in our industry, also in Europe, is about 50 years. And these findings are identical with the situation in the whole metal industry in North Rhine-Westphalia, where we are mainly located in Germany. And maybe ESSA could improve this situation by creating trainings which meet the requirements and tackles the challenges of this branch in this demographic and skills problematic. That would be a wish from my side. Miikka.
Very good, thank you. And you know, then if Axel, when we look at this issue of digital green and economic transition, I think no one knows better here the pressure that politics make when it comes to this. And so we are looking at an inevitable change, which is something that is not only a skills change, but it's the whole industry change. Hence, it will be a skills change. So what are your opinion of this point?
Yeah, thanks a lot to Miikka. And first of all, thanks so much for all the work ESSA has done so far. It is so important that we have this platform in order to really prevent that our industry has problems in the future. Skills without upskilling, we will not be competitive, not today and not in the future. And the earlier we start to help also the companies with such kind of initiatives, the better it is. And the European steel industry is probably the sector which has most and is most advanced in the green transition among all energy intensive industries. You can simply see that the number of projects which are will be proposed for important projects of common European interest alone. That is around about 100 projects alone. So we are really in the starting blocks, and therefore we need to, let's say, put the next gear what concerns the skills. And for that reason, we also are requesting, actually together with industriALL, a steel action plan, where the skills, of course, need to have an important role to play. And the steel action plan that is tackling all the challenges of the industry, and the most challenging is, of course, the decarbonization of our industry, but also of the wider economy to which we contribute. And this is only working with upscaling our efforts on the skills. But I believe this has also, and we need to talk about that, this has to start also a little bit earlier, not only in the companies. It has already to start. Education has to start in schools and universities, next to working with the workforce we have today, because we will need a lot of young talent, and our industry, I believe, becomes more interesting with the green transition, because we have so many options. It's a costly way, but the options are there, and if we get the right political support, and then we can also fulfill our task to help the companies upscaling the skills. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you. And now, actually, you are talking a lot on the green, and Klaus, you mentioned already green steel. So as a technology platform, you have an idea of digital and green and economical transformation, probably.
Yeah, thank you, Miikka. So this transformation, as also outlined by Andres already, will create a new setup of our production facilities. Even if the final product is from the performance not differentiated to the today's products, but the eventual environmental footprint, of course, is significantly reduced. And these new plants will require new approaches, and the way the material flows, the energy flows will differ. So there is a huge challenge for all levels of the workforces involved. So not only the blue colors, the white colors, also the managers. And there is a good opportunity to go hand in hand in a win-win situation with this digitization, because decision-making, supporting for the workers in general is very important. But this needs also a good understanding from the employers and employees, how to use them and how to trust them, and where to make own decisions and maybe overrule the suggestion made by these digital tools. As in particular, as now with this new additional target of greening our productions, the outcome is not as visible as previously if it's about quantitative and qualitative characteristics of the production. So we can see, do we have 500 or 1,000 coils produced a day? That's an easy measure. But the economical and ecological footprint is more difficult to grasp. So therefore, these digital skills are very important to be improved and made at ease for all the levels in the production plants.
Certainly. And I think here it would be it would be really interesting to hear from Angels, because you, of course, are working with 10 different sectors. But before that, I would be curious to hear from Elspeth, because we are talking about this transition, and then we are talking about the Skills Alliance ESSA that we are here dealing with. And so what would be the, as an employee point of view, the added value that you as an umbrella organization are looking at different steel countries, and how can this help within this transition?
Thanks, Miikka. No, I think skills, obviously, it's incredibly important. I mean, the green and digital transition, it's very ambitious. And we at industriALL Europe talk a lot about policy cohesion. And as Axel's mentioned, we both have this idea of a European steel action plan, because we need to look at the whole picture. It's skills, it's social policy, it's trade, it's environmental, it's everything. You know, so skills is definitely part of it, because we need the people to be able to perform the tasks that they need to do. So obviously for us, it's incredibly important. We talk a lot about impact assessments. So when the Commission comes forward with these big transitions, we want to know as workers, what is the impact on workers? And one of the questions is skills, you know, because it's related to, we have this transition, what will the jobs be in the future? If the whole industry is becoming greener and more digital, great. I mean, that the trade unions are supportive of this, but what does it mean for us? Will we have the same types of jobs? Will there be different jobs? Will the jobs be in the same places? We need all of this information. And one of our key demands is about reskilling, because obviously we're here to represent workers and we don't want any worker to be left behind. We talk a lot about a just transition, which you'll know has been a bit of a buzzword in the EU bubble for a while, but it's true, you know, with the transition, we need to make sure that we don't lose any workers. So we need to make sure that there's investment. So that means that workers are being reskilled. So just because they don't have the skills, the new skills we need today, whether they're digital or whether they're green, we need to invest in the workers to give them the skills. So worker involvement at every level, I think it's important here. Obviously, we're at European level. I think the ESSA project is great for that, to look at having a European approach to look at the full supply chain, but there will be differences. We know that there's differences between different sites, between different countries, and I think it's important we have that awareness as well. So again, communication between the employers and workers at all levels, we continue to think it's extremely important. We know that the workers and the employers at local level, those are the people on the ground. Those are the people who will tell you, okay, we are really struggling to hire people who have these skills. It's difficult, you know, these people might need to be reskilled in this way. So we need to look at it, and we need to plan now for the future. I think this is the thing we really need to stress today, is we're doing so much work today in this project. I think it's brilliant. We need to make sure that the final results are also shared, because when we're looking at the next 5 or 10 years, you know, we've got employers here, that's almost around the corner. 5 years is not too far away, so we need to plan now. And the little extra tuppence worth that I'd throw in is that steel is not the only industrial sector that is going to be challenged when it comes to skill needs. Me, for example, I also have the privilege of covering aerospace and shipbuilding. They are also coming to me saying that they're having difficulties, whether it's people, I don't know, who are experienced in welders, you know, the kind of traditional skills basis, but also everyone at the moment is looking for digital experts, whether it's cybersecurity, people who know about AI, everyone. So the pressure is on. There's a lot of competition. So the more work we can do, the more preparation we can do today is better in terms of the transition. Thanks.
Thank you very much. That's a very sobering answer, because it's also part of the reason why we are doing what we are doing. Still, one of the ideas of ESSA is to try to attract talent, and obviously also reskilling, really important. And later today, within this panel, we will look a bit at the steel regions. And like you mentioned, you know, those are the part, you know, that has been, you know, usually providing employment for a lot of steel workers. Hence, not only new talents is something we are looking at, but also indeed reskilling. And you mentioned the different sectors, you know, and therefore I think we have then the best person here in the panel to maybe mirror a bit. So I'm interested, Angels, like what are the commonalities if you're looking at this transition? You know different sectors now. You know paper industries and whatnots in your consortium. How would you compare what's happening with us now with regards to what's happening with them?
Thank you very much for this question, Miikka. I think it's a very important question. I coincide with Elspeth that the needs are pretty similar in many cases across sectors. Of course, when it comes about specific needs on the specific knowledge about each sector materials, then that's specific for the sectors. But when it comes to reach the green transition, to reach the circularity transition, then the skills are pretty much very similar. So they need green skills for this transition. They need managerial skills. They need skills to communicate, to informate. They need a multidisciplinary multidisciplinary approach of the skills. So this is very important, and this is what can result in the creation of new green jobs. And then here again, I coincide with the rest of the speakers that we need both to re-skill the current workforce, but also to prepare a new generation for the future and for the current jobs. This is not in 10 years time, this is next year, this is this year that the steel sector and the rest of the sectors need all these type of skills there. And there is a skills shortage constraint here right now. There are several aspects. Maybe the need of the growth of these green sectors was underestimated, but then, or maybe there was a lack of policy of coordination, but this is urgent and this needs to be done from today, even from yesterday, right? I would focus also on the digital skills, because that's one of the examples where all our sectors say, when I hear their discussions, they give the same message. They have very, very good experts in their fields. They have very good experts in process innovation, in industrial urban symbiosis. But then when it comes to skills, these are very specific skills, very specific knowledge about artificial intelligence, about cybersecurity, about big data or smart data. And that knowledge is not necessarily right now within many of our process industries. That knowledge needs to be integrated right now. So we need also to make these jobs attractive for these experts there. Or the process industry need to have a very close collaboration with the digital sector to integrate such skills within their workforce and with their working plans.
Right. And this makes even more important then when we are looking at the situation with all of the sectors. So I'm curious, like Martin, from your organization's point of view, when we are talking about the skills alliance of ESSA at the moment, so how your organization can support and sustainably then eventually implement and therefore continue what we are doing right now, because Elspeth also said, I think the most important part of what we are doing is not what we are doing at the moment. Now we are working on something that needs to work, and therefore how to make ESSA eventually to work for everyone's benefit, Martin.
Miikka, let me refer to the challenges of our industry. I mentioned before the demographic change, the demographic challenge. Another one is the challenge of recruiting sufficiently qualified young professionals. Yeah? We have the problem in the smaller companies, especially in Germany. The industry is not known as they should be. Yeah, we saw kind of hidden champions, smaller ones. We have to compete with bigger companies like steel companies here in the Ruhr area. That's very difficult task. And so we expect and we hope that the ESSA project can raise the awareness level and the degree of popularity of the steel branch and the steel processing industry and the steel manufacturing in particular. That would be one of my expectations for this project, and I'm sure that we will come to a sufficient result on this. And small and medium-sized companies, in particular, often lack professional recruitment strategies. Yeah, we don't have this staff and this skills department as maybe at ThyssenKrupp or some bigger companies. So we have very small recruiting departments, not these experts as we need to have, and maybe ESSA can support our smaller and medium-sized companies in their recruitment strategies. That would be a very big benefit for our industry. Thank you.
Right. And so, Axel, you are looking at this obviously now again from the umbrella perspective. You have companies, you have associations there, and EUROFER is of course an active member of all of these, and we have been since the start before even the application. But how would you in yourself say how to support and to really have this implemented so that it carries fruit eventually? Like, do we have some kind of bigger lines there maybe that you would think, if you look at what is happening on the policy areas, vice versa, what we will need as an outcome from this project?
Thanks, Miikka. First of all, again, I think we have started this project, which is the first step, but we need now to continue with this platform to involve more companies. You know that EUROFER, of course, is an association of associations, and the larger steel companies are part of that. So if we really want to take our role seriously, as umbrella organization, then we need also to find ways to involve more companies in the process. And that's the strength, I think, of EUROFER, ESTEP, European organizations. We are the link with the European institutions. And then if you play this correctly, then you can do quite a lot in terms of informing. I'm already for a long time pleading for a European Steel Institute. Unfortunately, that is not in the scope of the companies yet, because we need to be enabled to give more information, not only on the policy processes in Brussels, but to the wider economy, to the people. What is steel about? What are the requirements? What are the good things about steel to attract young talent? And that has mentioned several times. We can do what we want. So we can have the nicest seminars. If we do not have the people who are interested in that, we will not succeed. Therefore, we need to strengthen this type of basis, which we have now started with the skills platform, and then hopefully really reaching into the companies, into the regions, and scale this up and provide money. We have also Just Transition Fund. I'm not sure whether you have talked about that. We need to also talk about funding. How do we finance all that, the reskilling? So that is also a challenge, in particular for smaller companies to do.
Right. What about then, Klaus, when you are listening to what Axel is saying, and you are looking at it as a purely technological perspective, yet completely combined with what EUROFER is doing? What are your points of views to this question?
More what has Axel said, EUROFER being, of course, the biggest member of ESTEP, compromising the steel producers. What I like to add is that the impact, of course, will be fully supported by all means which are available via ESTEP. And this, I think we can do in a complementary way, because there are, of course, in-project measures existing, how to foster this implementation. And what we can add is to provide an already existing active network of people, because impact needs the understanding and the buy-in of the people. I guess Elspeth will comment on this later on as well. And therefore, it's so important to give a continuity in the awareness of this important aspect of the workforces, of the social innovation. And therefore, I'm coming now back that ESTEP has, since the beginning, this people working group. And many activities in the beginning were just able to be performed by in-kind contributions. And just in the recent past, we were also able to reach out to a higher level of projects by supported public funding. And also in the Clean Steel Partnership, we dedicate 2% of the budget for the enablers, which are digitization and social innovation. And these are not big euros, but they are so important to have an active community of experts, so that it is not only the project carried out many times by the engineers, physics and chemics, but that there is a good co-creation with the experts for the workforce perspective. Toni Schröder is our chairperson of this focus group, so we are very happy that we have him as a very active spokesperson to really have an enriching element into our very technical orientated discussions. And the second element I want to mention is, if we look into the production sites, when they do these transformations, there is also a very tricky element that normally the ones volunteering to do the first steps are not benefiting the most, because they have an extra burden. They have to do their daily work, and then they have the unknown situation within the experiment, trying out a new way of operation and so forth. So also this is, I think, an important element to find ways to have more incentives for going new ways and to try out something which is an extra burden.
That is a fair point. Indeed, when setting up ESSA, for instance, you could also see that there's a lot of curiosity, but then when you're doing something for the first time, you may want to look maybe from a side first to see how it works. But then now we are all in it and strongly going towards the implementation phase. And you were referring a couple of times to workers directly. Axel mentioned just transition. Elspeth, what does it mean then in terms of ESSA?
So in terms of ESSA, I think the trade unions obviously have a key role, and we've already said that at the European level, Industrial Europe is happy and keen to be involved. And when it comes to developing European statements or positions or EU advocacy, we're here to help. But I think another one of our main roles is obviously communication and coordination of our members. And I think that's really, really important, to make sure that there's strong demands at regional and national level, whether that's workers making demands about funding, as Axel said. That's really important. That's not just European funding. Yes, there is a Just Transition Fund, and the Parliament has been very clear that trade unions need to be part of those discussions, so we're happy with that. But we also think that we need to look at skills at a regional and national level, and I know that there's a lot of discussions about linking up sites with, for example, local vet providers, etc., etc. So again, for us, I don't think we as Industrial Europe are best placed for that. That's our members. So that's another one of our key roles. European stuff, we're absolutely here, Miikka, and you know that, and we do a lot of work together. European demands, funding, of course, but when it comes to national or regional, we need to roll that out. And I think that will be one of our key roles, is passing that on to our members and letting them take the lead. Because we need to be ambitious, we need support, we need funding, we need communication, as I say, between the social partners and the trainers, the vet providers at regional level. It's a lot of work. So we need some sort of coordination. So a lot of emails, I think, from my side to my members, but we're here to help with the implementation 100%. Thanks.
Very nice, thank you so much. And before I will go to the final question actually of today, which Elspeth directly touched, I'm going to ask you some advice how we can take this ESSA Skills Alliance then to the member states and to the steel regions effectively. But before going there, you can start preparing your answers there already, but before going there, Angels, you are listening to this again, representing 10 different organizations. You know the pressures of each of them. Many of them may have already, of course, their own blueprints going on. So you are seeing the process and you can mirror them and compare. How would you look at then a sustainable implementation of ours as a steel project that we are doing when you are looking at the other projects as well?
Yeah, thank you very much, Miikka. Well, the case of the steel industry, again, is similar to other sectors, right? Other energy-intensive industry sectors, I mean, in this case. And what they point out is especially the need of a stronger collaboration between the industry, the public bodies, and the education providers. This is very important to really achieve a good re-skilling of the workforce, but also a good skilling of the future talent. So, and here we could have many, there could be many options promoting this social dialogue to ensure that the development of the right skills and the right strategies are in place, to exchange these exchanges, to encourage these exchanges between the public authorities and the education providers and companies, for example, promote more these digital and advanced technology skills, not only, again, for the managerial levels or for the people who works in the offices, but also for the people that works in the industrial plants, for everybody, for all the levels of the company. So this is very important. So we need to connect better the industry with the educational and public bodies. I remember once I talked to a municipality and they told me, look, what we are interested is in having here, this was a case in Spain, more dual systems with the industry. So this kind of collaboration needs to be more reinforced all over Europe. I know it's very important, for example, in countries like Germany, but it's not the same case in all the European countries. And that would be very important. From our side, we can contribute from A.SPIRE first through our projects, so by identifying through the projects which are the needed skills, and then connecting this information to our academia, so the universities, the technology and research centers, so that they can move it further into their curricula. But then also through A.SPIRE size project, which gathers again the 10 sectors. It's kind of an ESSA project, but this, whether if ESSA focuses specifically on steel, A.SPIRE size focuses on industrial urban symbiosis or of the 10 sectors of A.SPIRE. So there is where we aim also at influencing through the results of the project into the national agendas. So we can do that through our usual activities, for example, when we have a specific and ad hoc workshops with the member states to promote this is what the industry needs, and this is what you need to consider in your vocational training systems, in your lifelong learning systems, etc. So all these aspects are very important. And then another, and with this I finish my answer for this. Remember that in my presentation I have talked about the hubs for circularity. There is also a need for the people who are working on site in the regions, whether they are people from the industry, whether they are people in the regions, in the municipalities, or in the academia, in all the areas, they need further knowledge of how to build this circularity, of where the opportunities are. And that's for that we have an initiative, which is the European Community of Practice, that intends to act as a facilitator. Well, this is the goal in our roadmap, right? Because then we will need a consortium, a winning consortium for the proposals that will be presented in the first calls of P4Planet and the Horizon Europe. But then the goal is to provide these tools so that the people in the hubs for circularity can really learn and can really also identify and transfer these needs for skills and for a better workforce and future talent in their own regions.
Thank you very much. And you also mentioned the A.SPIRE size. We know that is in safe hands, obviously led by Tony as well. So,
sure.
So we know that we already know that it's going to be a major success. Now, closing up, I realized that we would love to continue this discussion at least 3 more hours, but there are other people who also want to take the floor. So I will just ask you a concluding question. And indeed, because all of you, of course, you have first-hand experience what it means within your organization to be in touch with the steel regions and the member states. It's an interaction that happens all the time, every day. But what kind of advice you would give to us, maybe, if advice or comments, how we can best take this down to those steel regions, like Elspeth was just calling for that, how to take it down to the steel regions so that it will be concrete. Maybe Elspeth, you already have some ideas.
But for me, it's very simple, Miikka. I think when it comes to the regional aspect, for us, it sits with our national members. You know, they speak the language, they have the contacts. You know, a steel worker going to their local politician to say, we need this to save jobs in your region. That's the best way to get an outcome. We know that from lobbying in the past. So I think that's something we definitely should work on. We're happy to coordinate with our members. If they can go hand in hand with employers, even better. I think that sends a really strong message. But for me, regional, it should be dealt with by the national members, and therefore for us, it's just a matter of communication coordination, as straightforward as that.
Exactly. How about Axel? You know the national members really well, and I believe that for EUROFER's case, their importance is really vital to get this implemented in the regions. Any comments there? And the microphone, please, so then we can even hear it better.
Of course, this needs to be implemented on regional level, and there, Elspeth is completely right. But what we can do is, of course, to support that with raising the awareness that on political level. So we have our national associations, we speak with them. I know that there is a regional steel dialogue in Germany between the Bundesländer, and there this type of initiatives maybe has be discussed, but that's something where we can also maybe put the finger on the European perspective, that the regional authorities are informed. They need to be informed about this initiative. They need to be informed properly about the needs, what our industry needs. And then, of course, the implementation is up to the regional level. But also, they need to be better informed, in my view, and probably we need also to put a bit more pressure on the regions. And there, of course, European associations like EUROFER can help the national steel associations to find the right messaging vis-a-vis the regional political level. And then, of course, at the end, we are talking again also about financing and and providing the trainings. And there, the regions are, of course, crucial.
Indeed. Do you second, Klaus, do you second Axel's point of views?
Yes, and I'd like maybe to add that one element the project can do is to provide good suggestions, what are meaningful breakdown projects or activities which could be implemented first at regional level. So, right. Because if we follow the idea introduced by Elspeth and by Axel to look into our regional organizations, big ones or small ones, they, I think, will benefit and appreciate if the proposal what to implement is already very easy to understand and to grasp. And I think we have already a very good success story at hand with the GTVET project, also starting at European level and reaching out to regional level in the recent past.
And then, Martin, you have a point of view on this as well?
Yes, my advice would be to have closer cooperation with regional networks. If you allow, I would give you one example from my Spanish companies. The Spanish cold rolling industry is located in the northern parts of Spain, in the Biscaya region. There's works plants from Tata Steel, there's also in Trichon, ArcelorMittal steel plant. And this is a very important car manufacturing region for Spain. And they created 2006 a so-called Automotive Intelligence Center, where they combine all the car manufacturers, the suppliers, the University of Bilbao. And this intelligence center is these objectives are to stimulate the sectoral knowledge of the region, increase applied research related to the supplier sector, and to promote training among automotive professionals at all levels. That is really, in my point of view, a benchmark or a very good practice to have a regional competence centers, including all these stakeholders that are available, that they're interested, and then as ESSA to add on and to give in cooperation with these local networks. That's only one example from Spain. There are sure other examples in Germany, in Italy as well. That would be my advice: be close cooperation with local networks. Thank you.
And Angels, do you see something what Martin was saying that is applicable as when you're looking at the implementation of so many different sectors?
You see, I think the rest of the participants in the panel have said absolutely everything I wanted to say. So I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm just going to subscribe what they have said. And I would just like to add something on a very different, from a very different perspective. Because I think, and it's very much related to the attraction of talent. So I think we need to also, when we give all these recommendations to member states, to regions, to universities, to all the different stakeholders, we need to invite them to put themselves in the shoes of the young people who are looking for a new job, or who are trying to see what I'm going to study so that I can have a job and a good life and the job I like. And that's what I think we need to do. And we need to build this storyline so that first we attract new talent, but also so that the different agents that can really include this in the curricula, whether it's vocational, long life training, or academia at the university level, consider that. So imagine you are again 18 years old. You want to have opportunities. You want to have the right vocational trainings to see what are the green and circular skills that I need and digital skills that I need to have a job, and to have a good job that I have fun with and that I can contribute to. But also, what are the university opportunities that I will have also for that? And where are my good trainers? Are my professors, are my teachers ready to train me for that? So I want them to be ready. I want them also to have a good training for trainers options. And I want also to have a connection with the companies. I want to have my first opportunity to see, okay, that's what the companies want from me, right? So I want to have part of my training in the companies, right? And to see where I fit and what they expect from me. So that's what I think also projects like ESSA and ASPIRE can contribute to make the people who are working there, who are probably very far away already from the moment they had to take these decisions, to make them dream again what the Greta Thunbergs of the world need and expect to be in the curricula and in the training opportunities available for them.
Wow, thank you everyone. This is quite an information-filled panel, so really thank you Axel, Eggert, Elspeth Hathaway, Klaus Peters, Martin Kunkel, Angels, Orduna. Thank you so much for the panel.